This episode is sponsored by the Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. June's featured entertainment includes Skillet on the 28th and Pete Davidson on the 29th. Details and tickets at HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. The classic R&B band Tower of Power rocks the Bethesda Theater in Bethesda, Maryland this Friday night. I spoke with founding saxophonist and songwriter Emilio Castillo about the band's biggest hits from What Is Hip to So Very Hard to Go. Hey, Emilio Castillo. Hey, thanks so much for joining us on WTOP in Washington, D.C.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
We are talking because the beloved classic group Tower of Power is coming to the Bethesda Theater in Bethesda, Maryland, right there on Wisconsin Avenue. Not far from our station, just go a few blocks up. It'll be Friday, June 21st, so get your tickets now. Hey, thanks for doing this.
My pleasure. How are you doing there?
I'm doing all right. Where are you calling us from?
Where am I? I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. We're playing Kane Park tonight, and then we're on the bus on our way over by Chicago to St. Charles, Illinois.
Awesome. All as you're moving about the country and making your way over here to the East Coast, to the nation's capital area for the Bethesda Theater here. So if our folks come out, you know, you have tons of fans over the years, decades of fans at this point. They've probably played their music to their kids, maybe even grandkids at this point. But yeah, like, so is it, what are we going to hear in terms of like set list wise? Is it like sort of your all's greatest hits, or are you working anything new, or, you know, tease what we'll hear?
Well, we do kind of a mix, you know. There are certain songs we have to play, like What Is Hip and You're Still a Young Man and So Very Hard to Go. But we also play some other songs that have been popular throughout our career. It's a high energy show, kind of like a James Brown or a Prince show. We have a brand new singer named Jordan John that's really hot, and the band's really cooking.
That's awesome. So you said there's a brand new singer, Jordan. So he replaced Lenny Williams, or when did he take over?
Now, Lenny Williams has been gone for years.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of singers, and we had a guy named Mike Jarrell for a while, and he left the band, and Jordan came in. I think tonight is going to be his 20th gig. Just fabulous.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, do you want to shout out the rest of the band members who all's there with you? Because I feel like, you know, sometimes the lead singer gets the publicity, or you get the publicity because you're one of the founders who's actually calling in. But, you know, maybe some of the unsung heroes of the group. But shout them out real quick. Name check them.
Well, of course, you know, the other founding member of the band is my partner, Doc Kupka, who plays the baritone saxophone. We have Tommy Politzer on lead tenor sax. Two great trumpet players, Dave Richards and Adolfo Acosta. On guitar, we have Jerry Cortez. On the bass, Mark B.W. On drums, our brand new drummer, Peter N. Coons. And on organ, Roger Smith.
There you go. I always love giving them a shout out, you know, so when people come to their show, they can look on stage and go, oh, okay, you know, put a face with the name kind of a thing. That's great. That's great. And have you played Bethesda Theater before? Like, or if not, what's the beauty of these sort of intimate theaters as opposed to, you know, a big outdoor show or something? These sort of like supper club kind of vibes. I mean, you're probably right up close to the audience. It's got to be a cool, more interactive kind of experience.
You know, it's nice to be like that because the fans get an up close, personal view of the band, and it's a very powerful thing to hear it that close. But we do all kinds of gigs. We do big festivals, small, you know, venues like that. We go overseas. We're getting ready to go to Japan and do Europe later in the year, and we do all kind of gigs. But I expect Bethesda Theater to be great. I think I've been there before, and looking forward to it.
Awesome. Now, whenever I have sort of, you know, these famous musicians on, I always, you know, we like to, you know, start like we just did, teasing the actual show, but then I love to sort of remind folks, paint the little backstory of the band, some of the highlights, stuff like that. So I know you specifically, Emilio, you were born in Detroit in 1950. So what did you sort of grow up listening to? What was sort of your musical inspirations, you know, as a youngin'?
Well, my father was a bartender, and my parents were in the nightlife, and they liked things like Dinah Washington and Nat King Cole, and they also liked Elvis Presley and Bill Doggett and the Platters. And so I listened to that more soulful stuff. And I was there in Detroit till I was 11, and then my dad moved us out to the West Coast, to the Bay Area, and that's when the Motown thing got popular, and I was missing all my friends in Detroit, so I listened to the radio. The radio became my friend, and I listened to Smokey Robinson and the Four Tops and the Temptations and Martha and the Vandellas. I loved all that kind of music growing up.
Ah, so you were homesick for the Detroit Motown sound, and so that's when you cranked it up and brought it with you to the San Francisco Bay Area, Oakland, all that over there. That's great. And did I read, I mean, obviously, because you played the saxophone in the band for a long time, but did I read that you took your first, lessons in music theory from a guy named Norman Bates? Is that the music theory?
Yeah, I know. His name was Norman Bates, like the guy in the movie Psycho.
Different guy, though.
He was different guy. Yeah, he was the bass player for Dave Brubeck, actually. And really great teacher, taught me about music theory, and that really helped me in, leading the band and becoming a good band leader.
Awesome. And thanks for humoring my Hitchcock joke there. I know it's a different guy. I thought it'd be funny. But hey, all right. So that's sort of your origins. You've done a great job of painting what you listened to growing up, how you started playing the instrument, all that. So then how does Tower of Power come together? How do you meet the, what is it, I guess, Doc Kupka? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Doc Kupka. We had a band, and we were playing rock and roll and all that. And then I saw this band locally called the Spiders, and they were a great, tight soul band. And I really got into soul music. Right about that time, Sly and the Family Stone were playing right around the corner for us for like a year. And I really wanted to have a good soul band. And so, my mother said, if you're going to have a soul band, you should call yourselves the Motowns, because you guys are from Detroit.
Yeah.
My brother started.
Yeah.
And so we were called the Motowns. And then Doc came. I was doing a gig on actually 4th of July weekend, and he heard the band, and he was like, wow, your band is really good. And I said, oh, thanks a lot. And he said, yeah, only one thing wrong. Your horn section needs a little bottom. And he goes, by the way, I play the baritone sax. And we gave him an audition, and he was like the first hippie we ever met. He came in the band, and we all sort of, got into the hippie thing. We wanted to get into the Fillmore West Auditorium. And we did an audition there and got signed by Bill Graham to our first record deal. And made our first recording, which was a regional hit, and then went to Memphis and did our second recording with Steve Cropper called Bump City. And that's where we had our first top 10 hit, You're Still the Young Man.
That's great. And that's cool. I don't know if a lot of our listeners knew the backstory that you originally were called the Motowns, but that totally fits with the, your growing up, your childhood, and missing the homesick for Detroit. That totally fits with what you just told us. That's great. So wait, how'd you come, real quick before we go into some of the songs, how did you all settle on the name Tower of Power, like to change from Motowns to Tower of Power? What was in the name? I mean, it's cool. It rhymes. It sounds badass if you ask me, but how'd you all come up with it?
Well, the people that played the Fillmore were like the psychedelic bands, the Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, Big Brother and the Holding Company. And there were all these bands coming out with these weird names. Lothar and the Hand People, Frumious Bandersnatch. And, I'm thinking about it. We're a horn band playing soul music. That doesn't really fit us. But we were doing this recording in this little studio in Hayward, California, and I was on a break, and I'm sitting at the owner's desk, and here's this list of all those kind of weird names. And I started reading through them, and I'm thinking, man, none of these are going to work. And then I saw the name Tower of Power, and I went out and go, hey, guys, what about this name, Tower of Power? And I'll go, yeah, that's us. And we've been Tower of Power every.
I love it. It's a catchy name. You could talk to some young kid who's never even heard of the band, and you say Tower of Power, they'd be intrigued. They'd be like, I got to check that out. All right. So you mentioned that first album, East Bay Grease, Back on the Streets Again, all that stuff. But I guess the first real breakthrough, I guess, at least on the charts, I think, was in '72. You're Still a Young Man off of the Bump City album. Any memories of putting that together? You're still a young man, either writing it or recording it in the studio?
Well, it actually was the first song that Doc and I ever wrote, and we were playing it live for a few years before we recorded it, because when we went to do our first album, the producer, David Rubinson, said, "That song's too mushy. I don't want you to record it." And he wouldn't allow us to do that. And we were disappointed, but we did the rest of the album with a bunch of funk tunes, and we had one sort of mid-tempo, mellow tune with the flute. And that was the one that was the regional hit. It was called Sparkling in the Sand. But when we went to Memphis, we told Steve Cropper, the other guy wouldn't let us do this song. He said it was too mushy, but we think it's a cool song. And we played it for him. And he goes, "Oh, here in Memphis, we'll do that kind of song." And so we recorded it, and right out of the box, it was a big hit.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. And so at that point, everyone knows you're a household name on the charts. I guess Down to the Nightclub was also charted off of Bump City as well. But after that, I guess your biggest, probably, wouldn't you say, would be the third album, the self-titled Tower of Power, because that's the one that has So Very Hard to Go on it, which is, I would say, probably your most famous hit. Even young people know it from, I remember seeing it in that awesome Brazilian movie, City of God. Even younger people you can pull it up on YouTube, and in the comments, it's a bunch of young people saying, "Oh, I know this from the video game Watch Dogs too." Like it's still making the rounds. But memories of putting So Very Hard to Go together before it was this famous thing, like, in the studio, did you all know that this could be our biggest?
I knew it was a hit the moment I wrote it, to be honest.
Yeah.
We were sitting downstairs. We had a house. By then, we were doing better. Had a house up in the hills in Berkeley, California. And we sit down there in the bedroom, me and Doc, and we're writing the song. And when it's finished, I go, "Man, I think that's a hit." He goes, "Yeah, me too." So we call our manager down in Los Angeles, Ron Barnett. We go, "Ron, we wrote a hit." And he kind of laughs. He goes, "Yeah, sure." I go, "No, I'm serious." And I played it for him over the phone. He goes, "Man," he goes, "I think you might be right." And when we went to go record it, we had the singer that actually sang "You're Still a Young Man," and we had started having problems with him. And so right before we went to record the vocal on it, he left the band, and we got Lenny Williams in the band. And when I wrote So Very Hard to Go, I had Lenny Williams' voice in my mind, because he and I had been writing songs together, and he had this unique style. And so I thought, I'll have Lenny sing this song, and we'll put it out as a single, and that'll give him time to learn all the rest of the songs and finish the album. And that's what we did. And, he recorded it, sounded great right off the bat, and it came out with a hit immediately. And then we finished the rest of the album, and it came out, it was our biggest album.
Oh, it really was. It was all over not only the R&B charts, but even the, mainstream Billboard, the Hot 100 chart or whatever you call it. Thanks for that backstory too. And I can't believe ladies and gentlemen, this voice you're hearing is attached to the hands that wrote that song. That's amazing. All right, cool. And then, I guess, maybe time for a couple more, but I guess we have to hit What Is Hip, right? Cause I was also on the Tower of Power album, the third album. Similarly, like you just did, you're giving me great backstories on these. So how'd you come up with What Is Hip?
Well, actually, Doc approached me about that. Doc's kind of a clever word guy, and he comes to me and he says, "I want to write this song called What Is Hip." And I go, "What is hip? What's that about?" He goes, "Everybody wants to be hip." And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "But as soon as you become hip, it's not hip no more." He goes, "Yeah, so we'll write a song about all the different things people do to try to be hip, and how it's not hip anymore." The real kicker lyric in there is, "What's hip today just might become passé." And it's ironic that, we still play that song all the time. It gets played on the radio all the time. And right now they're having the NBA finals, and they've been playing it for the last 2.5 weeks at all the games, because somebody over there with the NBA or with ESPN or something loves What Is Hip. And I've been getting calls and texts from all over the world. Somebody texted me from Spain the other day saying, "Yeah, we just heard What Is Hip on the basketball game."
You mean, are they pumping it in the actual basketball arenas, or you mean as part of the broadcast they're playing it, like in and out of commercials?
I think it's both, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's both, yeah.
Well, there you go. It's come full circle. Like you said, what is hip becomes passe, and then if you wait long enough, it becomes hip again because it's retro and cool and vintage, you know? So there you go. NBA Finals. Tower of Power. That's awesome. All right, well, maybe time for one more, if you don't mind. Let's do Back to Oakland, because I know that album was, I think, Modern Drummer. I read that it was voted by Modern Drummer magazine as one of the most important that drummers should listen to for their learning the drums. But that had a couple of hits. Time will tell, a couple of them. But let's finish. Let's do Don't Change Horses in the middle of the stream, because I think that was one of your bigger hits, maybe your biggest, other than So Very Hard to Go, at least on the charts. So yeah, right. Memories of Writing Don't. I mean, it's a catchy ass title, but Memories of Writing that.
Well, by that time, Lenny Williams had been our singer for over a year, and he was a clever writer. And he used to hang out with this guy named Johnny Guitar Watson. And Johnny Watson used to come up to our house in the Oakland Berkeley Hills, and he would sit at the piano and write. And they wrote this song, Don't Change Horses, in the middle of the stream. As soon as we heard it, we knew it was going to be a cool song for Tower of Power. And we wound up recording that record up in Seattle, actually, because the guy that did the Tower of Power album in San Francisco, he was the guy that was recommended by Steve Cropper from Memphis. And he wound up being transferred up to this brand new studio called Chase Studios in Seattle. So we went up there, and we lived up there for 3 months and made that record. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And of course, you know, Squib Cakes is on that record. And we opened that record and closed it with this funk jam called Oakland Stroke. And that's got the landmark drum beat that David Garibaldi came up with. And that's mostly what Modern Drummer and all these drummers are talking about, because Dave has a way of making these really clever beats. And I was also, before he came in the band, that's what I was doing. I never liked just the old okey doke, we call them wood choppers, you know. And I was like, no, we're going to do something different with our beats, you know. So when Dave came in the band, we started making weird beats, and I said, you know, I want to do this thing called Oakland Stroke. And he goes, all right. And I was telling him, I was singing him the phrase over and over again. And he comes back to rehearsal the next day. He goes, we can put it to a beat like this. And then I was like, yeah, we can do that. And it's become quite famous.
I love it. You're giving me such great stories. Thanks for those. I especially like the name drop, the guy Johnny Guitar, which, you know, we mentioned Norman Bates earlier from Psycho. Johnny Guitar is a great 1954 Western. Nicholas Wright. So there you go. That's a cool little trivia fact. Hey, I won't make you go through all of them. That was great. And by the way, folks, that's just like scratching the surface. You've done, I don't even know, like probably a dozen or so albums since then. Urban Renewal, and In the Slot, Ain't No Stopping Us Now, We Came to Play, Back to the Streets, Direct, Power, Monster Release, T.O.P., Sold Out, Rhythm and Business, Dinosaur Tracks, Oakland Zone, The Great American Soul Book, Soul Side of Town, Step Up. It goes on and on. I have to ask you about T.O.P., Tower of Power, because I'm just now putting together that we are talking on the radio station WTOP, and you had an album T.O.P., and the band abbreviation is T.O.P. So how honored are you, sir, that T.O.P. is on T.O.P.?
Extremely honored to be on WTOP as the band leader of T.O.P.
So are you saying that our radio signal, our antenna, is a Tower of Power?
I think you're saying it.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Well, hey, I really, really appreciate you joining us. Are there any, I guess, final seconds of all those subsequent albums I named? Are there any hidden gems or personal favorites, you know, that you particularly, that you personally are like, you know what, you know, everybody knows the big hits from the first half of the career, but, you know, is there anyone that you want to remind us, like, hey, go back and pick up that, because it's like a hidden gem of your favorites?
Well, I'm very proud of all the records we've made. I work really hard on them. I produce those records, you know, but I have always said, throughout my whole career, the album called Urban Renewal, I thought we were firing on all 10 cylinders when we made that record. And it's got only so much oil in the ground. And, you know, to say the least, You're the Boat, which is another Johnny Guitar Watson song that he wrote with Lenny Williams. And it's it's just a real classic record. And then all the records we did in the 90s, Monster on a Leash, TLP, Sold Out, all those records, really high quality.
That's awesome. In the end, when your story is written, because, I mean, and this is going to be a while, you guys have a lot of gas left in the tank. So I'm talking like decades from now, when you and I are long gone and someone stumbles across this interview searching the internet. What do you want Tower of Power's legacy to be within R&B and funk? There's been many great groups over the years, but what do you think your little slice, your little carved out history, your little wing of the R&B, Hall of Fame would be?
I would just say, a high musicality. We've often been tagged as the musician band over the years, and I want that to be our moniker, that we have high musicality in the band Tower of Power.
I love it. High musicality. That's what you're going to hear and see at the Bethesda Theater in Bethesda, Maryland on Friday, June 21st. So get your tickets now. Tower of Power, TOP on WTOP. Hey, thanks for doing this.
My pleasure. Take care, man.
All right. Be well. See ya. Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.